Treksploration.
Hello, Treksplorers, and welcome back to Treksploration. I'm Albie.
And I'm Chris, and I wasn't blown away by that intro. I was ready for it this time. I'm getting wise to your ways. Yes.
You saw that I was drinking the pink tonight.
Yeah.
Not sure what flavor it is, but it's pink.
You usually blow me off the back wall, so...
We weren't supposed to talk about that. You know, you're married, and my mom's still alive.
You're the one talking about putting the pink in your mouth.
Today we were talking about the Star Trek: The Next Generation episode, "The Battle," Season 1, Episode 9. The Ferengi gives Picard a headache.
Yeah.
How about
he wasn't
that
the only one. He wasn't the only one.
I had a slight headache too, but I think it's because I'm taking lion's mane, and I guess I'm allergic. I don't know. It's weird.
You're taking what? Lion's mane? What are you, Charlie Sheen?
I'm trying to
Lion's mane.
I'm trying to keep my brain going. I'm in my late 30s now, so I don't want to slip too bad.
I mean, it's your very late 30s. We have an obligation to be honest with our viewers. Yeah.
Yeah, extremely late 30s. Like let's see. Let me do the math. 30, 40, 3019.
Oh, pretty good.
Yeah, that's not bad.
You don't look a day over 3018.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. So the Next Generation episode, original air date was November 16th, 1987, written by Herbert Wright, story by Larry Foster, and directed by Rob Bowman.
Rob Bowman, is he a big-time Next-Gen director?
His name's going to come up a lot, a lot. So I'd say yes.
Okay.
How was your week? I haven't talked to you.
Oh, it was a heck of a week. We just had Father's Day, so that'll date this to the late spring. Actually, as we record this, today is the first day of summer. I think it's the longest day of the year, isn't it?
Happy summer. Is it the summer solstice? I had no idea. I didn't get anybody any gifts.
Yeah, me neither. But I've been doing a lot of barbecues lately, and we had a nice big Father's Day barbecue. And it was nice. I had the whole family here, and I've just been reveling in the fact that I think I've said this before on the show, but it bears repeating because I'm so happy about it. My wife's schedule has changed. She used to work nights over the weekends. So we never saw anybody. Like for years, I would go to family functions alone. We hadn't had people over the house and, forever. It was always like once a year, maybe for a holiday. And now it's like every weekend. I'm inviting my mom and dad over, the entire family over, just enjoying my life again with my family, which is something that I hadn't been able to do in quite a while. So, Father's Day is a great excuse for that, but it's not even necessary, it turns out. I can just have people here for no reason. That's amazing. For no reason.
For no reason. Just because you got a lovely home and you got a life and you got time to enjoy each other. That's great.
Yeah, that's... How about you?
I wasn't invited to the barbecue.
That's how was your Father's Day. I mean, you're an actual dad. Unlike me, you're an actual dad.
An actual dad. It was great. Rennie planned a good day. She got me a card with Grogu on it. And what else? She brought me beautiful flowers.
Oh, how nice.
And she made me a crocheted heart. She's crocheting things now, which is really cool. And she got me a lovely gift. You want to see the gift now or later?
Oh, I want to see it now.
Okay.
You can't make us wait till later. Or maybe that should be the strategy to keep people watching. Maybe
a lovely gift for Father's Day.
Yes, the lovely Father's Day gift. Yeah, reveal soon. It'll just come out of the blue, so just keep watching. You just never know.
She planned out a whole day, and we went to... It started out with Alien, the musical.
All right, that can't be a real thing.
That's what I thought. I didn't think it was a real thing either. But Alien the musical exists, and when we found out about it, I was thinking, "Wow, that's cool." But it's probably like in L.A. or New York, something weird. Kids doing kid things like they do. That'd be cool though if it was within driving distance. And then I looked down, and it was within driving distance.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's always a plus.
Yeah, she was stoked because she's got her Ripley cosplay, and she's got like a plush Xenomorph thing, but it's the face hugger one. Okay. So she brought that. So we got front row, almost center. We were a little to the right of center, just by 2 seats because somebody had gotten there before us. But it was nice, and it was a musical parody, so I think that's how they can get away with it because parody law. But it was basically the story of Alien, the first movie. but some things were changed because it's a parody, and of course it's a musical. So there's many musical numbers. I think I enjoyed the whole thing because it's Alien, and it's really cool, and we're up close, and they were doing all kinds of cool effects with blinky light walls and different things. It kind of reminded me about that kids play that they did Alien that got so famous that Sigourney Weaver showed up. Like that high school one. That's a cool story to look up, and it's actually on YouTube. But this one, it was just produced by a local community theater, like the experimental theater. I'll probably include a clip. But I laughed the whole time. I thought it was funny. The music was great. And I think the moment I lost it was when there was 3 Xenomorphs, the full black aliens with the heads and everything, doing a tap dance.
That's reminiscent of Spaceballs, right?
Spaceballs, exactly. Yeah. That's what I was thinking of. And I didn't see it coming. I should have, because it's low budget theater. So, everybody looked like they wore whatever black shoes they could get. And the guy comes out on stage, one of the aliens. And I'm like, the alien's wearing tap shoes. That's funny. But, they're performers. That's probably what the black shoes they had. And just as that thought was leaving my mind, they all started tap dancing, and I was like, "Oh my god, tap dancing Xenomorphs!" It was just great.
That sounds like it was worth the drive.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Then after that, we got mauled bourbon chicken. She got the veggies and lo mein. I just got chicken and vegetables because that's better for me. And what else did we do? Then we went to see 2 movies. We did a double feature at the movie theater. We saw Inside Out 2 IMAX.
I'm hearing good things about that.
Yeah, it was really good. Nothing like the rumors I heard. Totally not like anything I heard, which is good because it didn't spoil anything because those were wrong. And but worth the watch, and it looked beautiful in IMAX. And then after that, we stayed and we watched If, that new Ryan Reynolds imaginary friend movie, written and directed by John Krasinski.
Isn't that the guy who created Ren and Stimpy? John K?
No, I want to say the guy from The Office who does The Quiet Place.
Oh, okay. Well,
but he could be the same person. I don't know.
No, I doubt it.
Probably not. The decades are wrong. But that was really good. Yeah. It was really good. It was and it turned out to be a father-daughter movie, and we didn't even know. So that was a good end to the whole long Father's Day that we enjoyed together. So it was very exciting.
So yeah, serendipitous.
Yeah, Alien the musical.
Alien the musical. Was it toe tapping? Aside from the
yeah, it was very. I think one of the numbers. This will give you an idea of what it was like. One of the numbers was called intersex cephalopod.
That's way beyond PG-13.
Yeah, it was a little. Well, it's based on an R-rated movie, but yeah, Rennie had her Ripley cosplay. I had my spacesuit on, so it was pretty good. And then the actors came out afterwards and said they liked their outfits and stuff.
Was there gore? There has to be gore. It's Alien.
You would think in the chestburster scene, it was more just like water. I guess who knows? The theater didn't let him use blood, but yeah. And then when the guy was foaming at the mouth, it was like Alka-Seltzer, and that turned out to be the acid from the alien that went through 3 decks and stuff like that. But it was a comedy, so it was very meta, and they were referencing breaking the fourth wall all the time, but it was good.
Chest busting comedy.
Yeah. So worth watching if it ever comes around to your town.
Yeah. Where was that? Was it somewhere in Fla?
Yeah, we had to drive all the way to Fort Myers.
Oh, yeah, that's a schlep.
Yeah, but it was good.
Across the alley for you, I think, right? So. Wow. Well, you had a much more productive and active Father's Day than I did. I just bought a whole bunch of food and cooked a whole bunch of food, ate a whole bunch of food. That's all I did. So,
that sounds fun, but you didn't invite me. How are the kids, the Penelope and Crystal?
They're just as yappy as ever. So.
Did they get you anything?
They got me their love.
Oh, that's all you really need.
Yeah.
That's all you really need. Okay, I'm going to show what I got for Father's Day because I'm super excited.
There we go.
I didn't know this existed.
It was worth the wait. Is that what you've been looking for?
Subspace Rhapsody on vinyl.
Wow. Have you opened it yet?
Yes, we had to. Star Trek the Musical.
They're well. It's all musicals all the time. It seems like with us lately.
It's crazy, but
We gotta stop talking about musicals. People are going to
this
get
might be the
idea that
sci-fi
this is
musical podcast.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be the musical review show.
Yeah,
Huh.
but man, this is awesome. 209. It's Stranger World season 2, episode 9. I'm thinking about getting a address thing for my door that just says 209.
I thought that it cost $209. Vinyl's expensive these days.
I don't think it was so bad. It was like $20, I think she paid. She has my card for Amazon things. So
gotcha.
I told her don't go crazy. She went crazy with the 4K, but that's fine. It says Star Trek on it, so she knows it's okay. But yeah.
You better be careful with that, man. That's awesome.
Strange New Worlds musical. Got to change my paradigm. Have you seen that episode? Of course.
Oh, yeah, a couple of times.
Yeah, I've seen it about 19 times. Can't wait to get there.
Well, I tell you what, yeah, we'll be talking about that. Then we will be truly the science fiction musical review show. We'll have to be.
We'll have to be.
That's part of the mandate. We just won't have a choice.
I thought we'd get our musical from Disco with Anthony Rapp and everything, and then but no.
They sang that song from Rent, right? They did that whole thing online
during Disco at one time. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So
it's like, how am I gonna pay for the Warp Core?
Well, I know that you've been doing other stuff besides being a good dad and seeing chest busting on stage, on ice, chest busting on ice.
I can't wait for that.
I heard that you were making the rounds and doing promo for the show on other shows.
Oh yes,
I'd like to call you Albie. You were on Sliders.
Have you heard of the little show called Sliders?
I have.
Yes, it's got some good episodes. It ends horribly. It's a big disappointment in the final season. So, really?
I'd like to say it's a big disappointment in most every season.
Sliders.
I do have I have a soft spot for it, and I watched the premiere with bated breath. So I really wanted to love Sliders. I really did. And
once the red and green was reversed on the traffic light, I was hooked.
See, and then I thought, okay, this is going to be the caliber of the slides, I guess. Okay. And it just kept on getting worse and worse and worse. And I kept watching and watching and watching. I think I've seen maybe every episode. I even stuck when it went to Sci-Fi. And Charlie came on, and then Quinn left, and they made him Mallory or something like that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Rennie Rembrandt was he was the star of the show all of a sudden because he was the last one left.
He was the last slider, Rembrandt. I mean, spoilers, but yeah, what was it? Contract negotiations or something went south, and
Jerry
I guess
O'Connell,
Rembrandt was the only guy that said, okay, whatever you want to give me.
The hell, I'll work. Yeah. It's fine by me. Fine by me. I get to work with Carrie War.
Which I liked seeing her on the show because I had a big crush on her back then because I think everybody did. That was the time.
Oh yeah, the first late night cable girl, one of the first late night cable girls.
So she was beautiful, and I enjoyed it. But the storytelling got even worse, I think, and just the whole Mallory and thing. I was hoping it was temporary, and they were like using that as a way to get Jerry O'Connell back, but.
I don't know. I have a secret about Sliders that I'll share with you. But first, you have to. Why are we talking about Sliders?
Oh, I was on that podcast. Some Sliders podcast, Phantom Entanglement. Google that on the YouTubes or YouTube's that on the Googles, and find that. I'm in the episode number 2, their second episode, which is covering episode number 6, because they're doing it in timeline production order, not air date order, because apparently Fox was messing with air dates back then too. So
yeah, I remember that was part of the reason season 1 was kind of weird because they started playing them out of order. Mm-hmm. So they would link the last slide to the beginning of the next slide, kind of like Quantum Leap.
Yeah.
But I saw there was one, I think it might have been the one that you did where they're all in hippie clothes and they're soaking wet.
Yeah, this was hippie.
And then the next show they leap into like a hippie world and they fall into the water. So it was like you could tell they just ran them out of order. Like one was supposed to go into the other, and yeah.
The cool part is this set. I have both sets, the original seasons by themselves, and then this complete series set. This complete series set, which is put out by the same people who put out the Quantum Leap ones.
Mill Creek?
Mill Creek, yes. These put them in the actually story order. so you can sit and watch these in the right order. So they get to the world where the tidal wave's coming, the tsunami's coming, and then the next time you see it, they're on top of the Empire State Building, or was it the Statue of Liberty swimming or something? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That was Ghostbusters 2, I think.
It's been a while. 2.5. Oh, that's right. I'm conflating everything in my head.
Who hosts the
Damon? And then his co-host is Mike. They were on a couple of our Quantum Leap podcasts, mega shows.
Longtime friends of the Quantum Leap podcast, right?
Yeah. So, and me, anytime somebody wants me to be on the show, I'm like, me? Okay. Yeah,
you guys, I wanted to join, but number one, it would have made me watch Sliders again, and it was too late. I definitely would have rewatched. I definitely would have joined. I just didn't have enough notice. And what'd you guys? I think you went at like midnight anyway, so it was too late.
Yeah, it was. I think 10 to midnight, or maybe midnight to 2. It was crazy, but it worked. So
cool.
I had a good time. I'm looking forward to following them. So if you haven't checked them out yet, check them out. And the cool part about checking them out is you'll see me talking about this show.
All right, let's put the links in the show notes.
Yes, absolutely. Link down below, hopefully. By the time you see this, hopefully.
Down below.
Hopefully. Link down below. So that was fun. So I enjoyed that. And now we get to talk about the Battle of Maxia.
I'm writing this down though. Put link in show.
Oh yeah, you're the show description guy.
Yeah, you want to know the funny thing is?
Yeah.
By the time we get off mic, I can't remember anything we discussed.
You seem to do good.
I'm gonna give you a little bit of behind the scenes here.
Okay.
Albie just likes to send me random crap. Listeners, you know this.
All the time.
I get books, I get shit on my stoop. There's just stuff all over the place. I come home one day and there's a giant thing, and Laura's just like, it came, and I said, it's got to be from Albie. What the hell is this? And it's a chair. And I'm like, why? I mean, I love you, dude. And I'm like, why? Get ready with the bleeps. Why in the fuck is he sending me a chair? And then, like, about 4 days later, the episode of, I think it was the Double Disco finale, or it was one of our episodes dropped. On the earbuds on the podcast,
the audio podcast,
and I'm listening back, and at the end of the thing, we had a discussion about my chair, and you're like, I'm going to send you a chair, and I had absolutely zero memory of us even having that discussion because it was late. We'd probably been going a couple of hours. It was like 2:00 in the morning, but I mean, that's how bad I've gotten with retaining. Like, we're so in the moment here, and this is so unproduced. It's so unrehearsed. We just kind of get on and gab that I kind of forget half the stuff we talk about. So I'm starting to give myself notes. Like, say, good. Show notes. Yeah.
That kind of explains your messages about the chair.
Yeah, because
why would you give me a chair?
I was like, it's so out of the blue. Wait, it wasn't.
It's my fault. I always buy furniture in friendships way too early. You got to wait a little bit before you buy your friend some furniture. So
I think I might send that chair back. I think it might be too big for my space.
Hey, whatever you find one.
I'll find one.
Auction it off for charity. You never know.
I complain about my chair, but I like it too.
It's supposed to have good lumbar support. That's all I knew, and it was white because your whole library is white.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. I'll try. I'll finally have some time this weekend without obligations, so I'll try to put it together a little bit and see how it fits in the space.
See if it fits. If not, we'll find you one. And you got a new camera to hook up too, I think, right?
Yeah, this week. Okay, so everybody watching now, this will be the last production where you see me with. Well, I'll probably still have the same background, but I'm gonna redo my whole setup this week. And again, I finally have time to put in the new camera that Albie bought me, so you'll see. Not just my beautiful, beautiful face, but every single pore will be in like 1080K that you can
something
count.
Like that 4K
right, So Spore K, it'll be in Spore K. You'll see all my pore in Spore K. So yeah, and I know I'm still talking about anything but the battle. The battle.
Why the hell did he send me a chair? And then you listen to the podcast going, oh, yeah, a chair.
Right. Yeah.
So the podcast must be more entertaining for you than you don't remember us doing it. You'd be like, I like that guy. I agree with him. Oh, it's me.
Yeah. It does help. Let me tell you. The other thing that is so liberating about this is like I would know chapter and verse, everything we said, because usually I'm the one editing it But I don't have to edit this show. It's all on you. Yay!
You are the talent.
I just get up and walk away.
I'm the worker bee.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, and all
I like it that way. I like having you on the show just for talent. That's what you are, talented. So tell me your first impressions of.
All right. We always get this backwards. Should we do the episode synopsis first?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Okay. There we go.
Picard gets a headache.
Yes, that's it. Okay.
A what?
Good synopsis.
A what?
What now?
What?
So, episode synopsis written by Chris for Albie. Are we ready? Beware Ferengi bearing gifts. The Enterprise is en route to a mysterious rendezvous requested by a Ferengi ship. While musing on the why of it, Picard calls Dr. Crusher to treat that most mysterious of illnesses, a slight headache. Contact is established, and Ferengi Captain Damon Bach has a gift for Picard, the long-lost USS Stargazer, the Constellation-class starship that was Jean-Luc's first command. All hands had to abandon ship during a skirmish that the Ferengi have since dubbed the Battle of Maxia. Picard didn't know the attacking ship was Ferengi, but memories of the battle are soon consuming him, along with monstrous headaches. Soon Picard is in the grip of a PTSD fugue and commandeers the Stargazer while reliving the battle. But in place of an unknown alien ship, Picard has trained all weapons on the Enterprise. Set phasers to Picard maneuver, this time on Star Trek The Next Generation, The Battle.
Wow.
I'm going to get better at reading my own stuff soon, I promise.
Oh, after post, it was great. It was perfect.
Oh, okay. Oh, I did sound good. Thank you.
I love that you use the word fugue.
Fugue, yes.
Yes. One of my favorite episodes of Felicity. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you say so.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah. So he had a headache. What is a headache?
I don't know. This is the 24th century. What's a cold? Do you need a sweater, Wesley? Cold.
Hey, did you see that? Wesley's first use of that striped sweater.
Oh yeah, he had his I think his cadet onesie. Like what was that?
Yeah, it was. I don't know, but it had the stripes. It had the Wesley stripes.
I call that his gray rainbow top.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's the famous one. I think many action figure were made with that.
I mean, he had to wear it for like the next 6 years. So they finally gave him a red shirt. Poor Wesley. So, so I think that was a pretty comprehensive review of. Yeah,
that was good.
Yeah.
That reminded anybody who hadn't watched it in a while what it was about. So, I think this for me, okay, let's go. First impressions, Christopher D. Philippus of the battle.
I want to say that this is not the greatest episode.
Okay.
My first impression is that was an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, first season, I guess. I know there's going to be a lot more to discuss, but nothing about this episode spoke to me in any particular way, in any gripping way. Like Jogging Boner Planet before this, I don't have as there was just no there for this episode, and I'd be interested to know for you as a huge TNG fan how this one hits you, because there's a lot of good lore in this one. So.
Well, yeah, we first find out about the Stargazer in this one, which is pretty cool, and his old crew, and there's been books written about that. You haven't probably read those because you only read a couple TNG books, right?
I think I've read one TNG book, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
it's weird. For me, this episode was always boring and slow and weird, and I never paid attention to it. But now that it's our job to sit down and pay attention, I actually enjoyed it much more because it wasn't just going by in the background, And I know I say that often, but this time around with TNG, it's really hitting me different because I'm just really analyzing it. And my first impressions of the battle. Well, I watched the battle from up high, and then afterwards I came down to shoot the survivors.
If that's a reference, I don't know what it is, but it's brilliant.
Oh, Hemingway quote.
Okay.
But anyway, because it's about critics, so that's what we're doing here. We're criticizing somebody else's work after it's all.
That's
done.
what we do. Yeah, I mean,
I found it better than normal. This is a weird episode because this is one that I used to test my AI 3D program. So I've seen it in 3D before. And it means nothing, but it's just something.
Of all the episodes to watch in 3D, a Ferengi episode?
Well, because of the ears, and also it starts out with a really cool panning shot in Picard's quarters, home office, I guess, ship office.
Was that his? It wasn't his ready room.
I want to say it's his apartment.
It looked too small to be his quarters, but then maybe not. It was kind of long and skinny for quarters.
They switched stuff around for a while, I actually really liked the episode this time. I've never disliked the episode, but before this time, it's always been just all right for me. But I really enjoyed this. I think it had to do more with the Picard lore and his history. And also, during this episode, it occurred to me that Picard, throughout the whole series, of course, his brain gets taken over so many times, it's ridiculous. Anybody else would have been fired and committed by now, I think. But I mean, we're still in season 1 and like the first part of season 1. And how many times has it been? 1, 2, 3? I'm not even sure.
Yeah, at this point, I mean, that's one of my notes. I mean, Picard mind manipulated yet again. So how often are they going to go back to this well in season 1? I guess we can start counting. Let's get a clicker.
Yeah, let's get a baseball counter thing.
Yeah. So, well, before we get into the main discussion, let's maneuver our Picards away from everything that we want to say, because we want to hear what everybody else has to say about this episode.
Did we get any feedback?
Well, first let's tell people how to reach out.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yes,
how to leave feedback. See, I'm glad you're here. You're not only the talent, you're like you're corralling me. I'm just
trying to keep a little semblance.
You're keeping me on track.
Production here. I'm
just random.
So subscribe, like, share at Patreon and on YouTube. You can find our main community of Treksplorers at patreon.com/Treksploration. You can get us on Instagram at Treksploration Pod. You can X us at Treksploration. You can email us at TreksplorationPod@gmail.com. You can call us at 707-847-6682. You can write us a letter at P.O. Box 542, Bayport, New York 11705. And you can find us right here on YouTube at youtube.com/@Treksploration, and leave comments in the comments field below. Tell us what you think of the battle. And we want to thank our current crew of Treksplorers who are over there on our Patreon site. Our Lieutenant Commanders, everybody stand at attention. Lieutenant Commander Scott Seligman, Cosplay Dad, One of All, Fantasy Fan. Those are our Lieutenant Commanders. We have a big senior staff under our Captain Charles from Texas. So thank you, Charles from Texas, and all of our Lieutenant Commanders for everything you do to support this show. You can join them over there at patreon.com/Treksploration if you so wish. There are many membership tiers with different benefits and bonuses, and you can even go there for free and just hang out and talk about everything you want to talk about Star Trek over there at patreon.com/Treksplloration. I've hit it like 3 or 4 times now, right? People probably.
Yeah, that's pretty good. All
right. So, okay. And we do have some feedback from Charles from Texas. Captain Charles. Captain Charles. He's perennial feedback.
On the deck?
On the bridge. He wrote us some feedback for Jogging Boner Planet, otherwise known as Justice, which I loved because it was such a big Prime Directive episode. Charles from Texas writes, I think the Prime Directive is a great concept, and I've always enjoyed episodes related to it. Great source for drama. I think it would be interesting for a future Trek show to actually not break it and it cost someone their life. That's kind of what I was saying. Have they ever done that? And Charles thinks the dramatic repercussions would be huge to watch unfold. I've been thinking a little bit more about this. You familiar with Asimov and the laws of robotics?
Yes, 100%. Love iRobot, the movie. Is it iRobot? No. Millennium Man. What is it? Bicentennial Man.
Bicentennial Man, which was, I think, basically iRobot, right?
Yeah. So,
well, here's one thing I didn't like about iRobot. The fact that Asimov sets down these laws, the 3 laws of robotics, at the very top of the book. And then he sets them up as basically narrative strawmen to write a bunch of stories that circumvent those laws. So it's like, what's the sense? You just set these pins up to knock them down. And I get to wonder now, are they going to start using the Prime Directive that way? Well, we have this Prime Directive and we can't break the law, but now we're going to do episodes that are exercises in getting around that law. And I wonder if that's going to annoy the crap out of me, if it so happens to come to fruition.
Because show. I think sometimes you need things there just to create something to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like with any story, it's how well do they do it. But right. I just hope that doesn't become like a go-to narrative dramatic crutch. But we'll see.
A few times a season, it's got to be in every Star Trek series, I think, right?
I mean, I suppose.
So maybe that's the thing. Maybe we'll wait till you get to an episode where you're like, they did it, but I enjoyed how they did it.
Okay. All right. And it won't be the one with the Proto-Vulcans and Ray Wise.
Who Watches the Watchers? Is that the one?
I think so. I think so. Who yawns with the yawners? Oh, that was
important. I always just saw it as a way for the captain that we're following or the crew that we're following, give us something that they had to circumvent, obviously. And it was like they were trying to go against their boss almost, with their boss not being there, just a general rule. And it made a lot of sense for the most part, but it really showed the captains making decisions. Because if they didn't have that and go against it, then what would they be doing? Just following the rules the whole time. So
I guess it always struck me as a little bit contradictory, because Star Trek was always about spreading this secular humanistic ideal across the galaxy and bringing the Enlightenment to the unwashed masses. Yet their first rule is, well, we really can't do that. But the whole message of the show is doing that. So I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, for me, the Prime Directive was more like First Contact. The episode is more for that. Like, let them develop, don't bother them. But like, once you're in a situation, I don't think it applies as much. So it was interpreted more broadly than I look at it, if that makes sense.
It'll be interesting to see how they tackle it in TOS as well, as we start going through the original series.
Can't wait. The Cage is coming.
It's coming.
You got your tape ready?
We'll juxtapose it. I don't have that tape, you son of a bitch.
Oh, dude, this is still wrapped up. I don't know whether I should watch it or wait till after I die so it gets donated so somebody else can get it and then not open it.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe that's for the best. maybe nobody could enjoy that. It's just for looking. It's not for enjoying.
It's just for looking at. It's so beautiful. It's a work of art. It's a work of art. It's a cardboard box.
So everybody with bated breath, you'll be able to find that over on patreon.com/Treksploration. So we also got an email about our double disco season finale extravaganza.
Somebody watched that. Listen to that.
Yeah, that's cool. We got this email from our new viewer, Willard, who wrote to us before. Willard, welcome back, Willard. Willard writes, Albie, when you said that the ending with Michael and Book at the beach leaving for a new mission felt like a good ending, you were right. It was the ending. That's how the season ended. Everything after that was the reshoots. I enjoyed the coda. I feel they tied up the one thing that really needed to be done, and that was Calypso. The Daniels reveal was part of the season and not the reshoot, which means we may have learned more about Daniels and the Time War in future seasons. For me, that's a reason to be upset about No More Discovery. I loved Discovery and have been upset about the cancellation since the announcement. Willard, you're the first one we've heard say that. So
on all of the internets.
Yeah, welcome to the club of one. And we support you, yes.
I know what you're going through, man. I feel like that sometimes too with other series. So
just not Discovery. Yes, it's different. It's not an ensemble show. It never was. It was Michael's show. It started with Michael and it ended with Michael. Would it have been better as a true ensemble show? Yes, but the decision was made to make this more about one character than the previous Treks had been. The latter seasons leaned more towards an ensemble to appease complainers. He's talking about you, Albie, complainer.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. But Michael remained.
I normally complain. I usually kept it to myself, at least publicly. I think our group chats, I'd be like, disco. But right. Publicly, I said nothing.
You put it, well, now you have to say something.
I have to, yeah.
So just to finish Willard's thought, the latter seasons lean more towards an ensemble to appease complainers, but Michael remains the main focus. Albie, as for how you feel about Discovery, we will have to agree to disagree. Willard.
Agreed. Just because I feel one way doesn't make me right. That's for sure. And one day I hope to feel like he does. I can't wait to go through it one day again in the far future and really enjoy it.
The far, far future.
Far, far future.
The far. You may be right. I may be crazy.
After I've been frozen, put on a satellite, lost in space, and then regenerated and cured everything that was wrong with me, and I won't get headaches anymore, and I'll learn to play country music.
What's a headache?
Cut on this here TV, and I will love disco by then.
Are you going to be what's his face? Whose concert got stormed?
Sonny L. Clemens, Sonny Clemens, something like that. Yeah.
LC Sonny Clemens? I don't know.
That guy.
Yep. That episode's coming out.
It's coming.
I feel like I want to say
Neutral Zone, I think. That might be the last episode of season 1. Not sure.
Okay. It's I think it is. Yeah. Now that I think about it. Yep. So,
but we're very not good there points, yet. Willard, and thank you for letting us know about that. We really wanted to talk to people who really love the show, and it was sad it's gone. So,
and we're sorry for you that it's gone. We hope that you can get by. But you have 5 seasons to rewatch, and no one can take those away from you. So
exactly.
So good for you. Thank you, Willard. Thank you, Captain Charles from Texas. Everybody out there who is listening, feel free to join the discussion. If you send us some feedback, odds are we will read it out to your fellow Treksplorers, and we want to hear from you. So I think now it's time for me to hear from you, though, Albie. I mean, the battle. You're the one that liked this episode. So where do we begin? I mean, where do you want to start?
First of all, I think I'm finally over the trauma that this episode caused me. I was a young teenager. I went to a Star Trek convention. It was a couple towns over, and George Takei, is it Takei or Takai? What does he always say? Takei.
You know how I remember that? Because during his roast of William Shatner, he said, "Bill, you're always calling me George Takei." He said, "It's Takei, like toupee." So that's a good way to remember.
Takei, George Takei. So it was one of those small conventions where you only have one guest.
Yep.
But it's a fun weekend, and they had a trivia contest. One of those things where the whole audience, if you wanted to participate, you would stand up, and then if you got it wrong, you would sit down until the last one. I was like maybe 4 from the top by the time I was eliminated, and I was eliminated on the question, who was the hero of Maxia? Right? Now, at that time, I had watched the battle probably 5-10 times, and I didn't pay attention to words and titles as much as the story in general. And I thought they were talking about the hero as in the Ferengi, because it was the Battle of Maxia was the Ferengi point of view of the battle. So I was thinking there was no way Picard was the hero, but it was Picard, and I had to sit down. So I was like so embarrassed in my maroon next gen outfit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
A few years later, I won Sci-Fi Jeopardy at an Orlando convention, so I was pretty stoked because I got applause from the audience because I was clearing all the categories
in that room. I'm sure
I was the coolest fat nerd dressed up like Stargate. I think.
I have to ask you a question though. Is it the kind of thing where you can go until you miss, or is it a true competition where everybody gets a chance and then?
The Jeopardy one or the first one with the hero of Maxia?
I guess the Jeopardy one.
Jeopardy was played just exactly like Jeopardy. So the points and everything. So
if you get it, you get to choose the next one, but you have to buzz in quick enough. You don't automatically get to go again. You get to choose the next category, but it's not a guarantee that you're going to be.
I think we had those bells you ring at the concierge desk or something.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's a better way, because I was thinking if you get to go again just because you're right. Usually at a Star Trek convention, the first person to answer will be the last person to answer. They'll never lose. So
the guy that ran it did pretty good, and it was all kinds of sci-fi fantasy questions, and I was clearing categories left and right, and I won the game on the category Prue, Piper, or Phoebe from Charmed. So they would say like what they did in an episode, and I would have to pick the right one, and I cleared the whole category.
I have seen a couple of episodes of Charmed because it happens to be on in the background sometimes. I've never actually sat down and watched it. I talk about it with Allison quite a bit on QLP.
Yeah, she loves it. She does the podcast.
Podcasts and everything. So
yeah,
if you want to do a Charmed cul-de-sac, maybe we get Allison on the mic and you guys
great.
can show me which Charmed episode to watch.
I think I had only watched it through once, but I just happen to remember those things. They were pretty, the guy was easy with the questions, at least in my perspective.
It's kind of like the scenic questions that we have here that we get.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I did pretty good, but every time I cleared a category, I'd get applause. So,
well, I'm glad that traumatic experience also revived memories of the positive experience. It's almost like you had your Picard Stargazer PTSD, but then you turn that frown upside down. So
that's what I'm saying. I was finally able to blow up the beach ball with a phaser.
Well, somebody needs to do that. Why not you? If not you, who? If not now, when? I don't even understand the reference, but
I watched the battle from up high. It was cool to find out more about Picard's history, because obviously a captain isn't going to be. This isn't his first ship, especially at his advanced age that he looked at. At 35 years ago, 37 years ago now, maybe, I don't even know. But it was cool that he knew another crew and he was losing his mind. I think the moment that freaked me out the most was when he started hallucinating and calling people Vigo and thinking he was on the Stargazer. It was cool to see the Ferengi. They were actually a villain in this one. At least one of them was. The captain was.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like the monoculture of villain thing. It was like the one villain. So what did you think about, was it Damon Bach or was it a different
Damon
one?
Bach.
Damon Bach. What did you think about his villain portrayal and his story, like from his perspective about losing his son?
I feel like Frank Corsentino, who played Damon Bach, did a wonderful job doing it. I think that this is more approaching the Ferengi as we would get to know them, or at least it lays a little bit more groundwork than Armin was able to do with the race, the species, I guess, whatever. In the one with the gate, I forget what it was called. Yeah, we all know which one. Laser whips.
Lonely Among Us.
Among Us. Nope. No, it was the one with the gates, and then there were the gates on the planet.
The finger cuffs.
Yeah, and the finger cuffs. Yep.
Okay, let me work on it.
It'll come to you. You just blurt it out. You blurt
Processing.
it out. So, I'm not going to say that the Ferengi were good.
The Last Outpost.
The Last Outpost. Yes. Thank you. They were better though, and I don't know where the production was at this point in deciding that the Ferengi were going to, or if they were going to remain the big bad of the series. But if they were, this episode was a bit more promising in that direction because it gave them a little bit more depth. It gave them some nuance. This is an adversary now that I feel like you can deal with. That's not just a complete joke, which is the way that they were presented in The Last Outpost. So what did you think?
I thought he was a good villain, and I kind of sympathized with him. The only problem is he knew he was wrong because he had altered Picard's records. So he knew the original records. So he knew he was getting revenge when it wasn't done intentionally, and then perhaps his son was at fault. And he would know it, but maybe there's that cognitive dissonance again with, great trauma. And that's when he picked up the shotgun or the bouncy ball.
From on high. Mm-hmm. But so that's what you're talking about. You're talking about the mind control device.
Yeah.
It didn't look like a beach ball to me. You thought that was a cheap looking prop?
To me, it looked like, those bouncy balls you get in the drugstore. Or in the Mega Mart, and there's like a big cage, and the workers always got to fill them up with air, and they're just like basketball size, but like $3 version.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah,
with some tape on it. The rings looked cool on the prop though, like they looked like some kind of camera or lighting ring adjustment thing that I didn't know that they used on it, but it always looked like a bouncy ball to me.
It was the most convoluted revenge scheme ever. It hinged on every single little detail going exactly as he envisioned it might go. So, I have stuff to say about that. I kind of like the prop, but again, if you're going to reintroduce the Ferengi, this is not as good as they get. DS9 makes them as good as they get, but this is, I think, maybe one of their better appearances on Next Gen.
I thought it was interesting. It wasn't just a revenge plot to kill Picard. Like, he wasn't just trying to kill Picard, which he probably could have done much easier. He was trying to ruin him.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I wonder if that's because he was ruined by his grief over his son, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that was the message, moral meaning of this entire episode was revenge and the futility of revenge. And I'm trying to figure out, though, is Picard feeling guilty regardless of the fact that his ship was waylaid and almost destroyed by an unseen enemy that gave them no warning, that seemingly had no purpose in attacking them. They never said why this ship was attacking them. They never had a chance to find out because Picard was able to destroy it. But I feel like for Damon Bach's plan to work, Picard must have some kind of baseline regret. Otherwise, it wouldn't be affecting him as negatively, I think, if he felt that he was completely in the right. Would it have been as traumatic for him to relive?
I found it interesting that he didn't remember it. So and that's something where one thing can mean nothing to someone or something, but it's forgettable. And then it means everything to someone else. So I found that interesting in the story. And I have to applaud Patrick Stewart's acting in this episode, because not only was he acting like Captain Picard from the Enterprise that was going through pain and confusion, but also when he was on the bridge with the ghost crew of the Stargazer, and he was reliving the scenario with Damon Bach's son on the Stargazer. I found it interesting that simultaneously he was acting like the captain of the Enterprise that we know, the captain of the Stargazer, a much younger man, a much more unsure captain, trying to avoid destroying a ship or killing someone, and the confusion all at the same time. And I think he nailed it.
I guess, yeah, maybe if I rewatch this again, that would be something to focus on. I mean, Patrick tries to make the best of whatever they give him, and I felt that if there was going to be high points in this episode, that was certainly one of them. I still trying to wrap my head around this whole revenge plot. What was Damon Bach's endgame here? So let's just maybe go through it. He finds the Stargazer somehow. Who knows? Maybe it's his Moby Dick. It's his white whale. He's been searching for it forever. He gets this weird technology that can implant thoughts in people's heads. He puts, Beach Ball A in his quarters, and he plants Beach Ball B in Picard's old quarters. Somehow, with the Stargazer being not even in the picture yet, and Damon Bach being not even at the rendezvous yet, although I think they were waiting for them to say something, right?
Yeah.
They were already, so maybe that's why Picard was getting a headache. He was already affecting him somehow with Beach Ball Prime. And then he gets the Stargazer as a gift to Picard. Okay, what's that all about? So his intent was for Picard to always go back to the Stargazer because it was his own ship, and then take his old stuff back to the Enterprise where he was, so that he could continue tormenting him with memories of the battle. And then what was the end? What was his intention always for Picard to go a little nutso, commandeer the Stargazer, and try to destroy the Enterprise, or what? What was the issue? He could have just as easily targeted the Ferengi ship. Instead of, it actually would have made more sense because he would have been reliving it. And you have to think it's the same kind of Ferengi Alliance design. So I don't understand the revenge plot here. I understand why they wanted to do it as a story device. It just doesn't make much logical sense to me.
I think he wanted Picard to be destroyed like he would have been if his son won the battle. So on the Stargazer, in command of the Stargazer, and being destroyed, like Poetic Justice, maybe the Ferengi version of Poetic Justice.
Destroyed by who?
Well, you would think by the Ferengi ship, but they didn't want the blood on their hands or the situation with the Federation. So if you get the Enterprise to fire on the Stargazer and kill Picard, like Damon Box thinks he should have been killed originally instead of his son, I don't know, maybe like a Moby Dick thing. So this is his whole Moby Dick. This is his MacGuffin, right?
I guess. I mean, you could go crazy focusing on plot holes in any episode, but these just seemed especially egregious to me. I mean, the story hinged on a lot of coincidences happening the way Bach would hope they happened.
A lot of because show. I feel like it's one of those things like if we found out that he had some kind of time travel device that he could keep going back in time and changing it until what he wanted to make happen worked, it would make more sense. But of course, he got caught at the end.
Magic to make the Sandus Man go mad.
Exactly.
To call back a disco episode.
Why did they beam the Ferengi to the bridge? That seems like the most secure area you're not supposed to be in, right?
Right? I mean, here's the thing. I guess you can see most of the bridge from any kind of communique that you have. So the layout of a Federation bridge is probably the most recognizable element of a lot of ships besides the nacelles, because that's all most species or other planets or other alien races are going to see. It's somebody sitting on the bridge of a starship. So if you want to really hide what else the ship might have, either you beam them into a brig or you beam them onto the bridge. You know, but I think it's because they have a set. That's why they have that set, so they want to use it. It's more dramatic for them to just beam from screen to stage, so to speak, right?
Maybe cost saving. They didn't really do much but the bridge and the battle bridge in this episode. Do you smell smoke? Do you smell burning toast?
Well, are you having a stroke? I think
that's what I thought when Picard said, "Do you smell toast?" Maybe it is a whole stroke thing. Maybe they wrote that in. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. What did you think though? I'm trying to wrap my head around, because they tried to show it visually at the end of the episode of what was, I guess, the original Picard maneuver. Because as any Next Gen fan can tell you, that's not really the Picard maneuver. What is the real Picard maneuver, Albie?
When you sit down and your shirt has risen because of the way the costuming is done, you have to pull your shirt down to make it not wrinkly. That is the Picard maneuver. And this was the debut of the Picard maneuver, at least the in-universe version. So I guess it wasn't called the Picard maneuver before that, right? Makes sense.
I guess. I mean, so at first when they described the Picard maneuver, I was under the impression that somehow Picard was the helmsman on the Stargazer, not the captain, even though I know he had mentioned the Stargazer once or twice before this, and it always being like a bucket of bolts threatening to fly apart, but he loved it nonetheless because it was his first command, blah, 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 blah. But, like, if I got my facts right, if I was listening correctly, the Picard maneuver was they were sitting in one spot in the Stargazer, and then he, like, told them to go to warp 9 for a second and a half, and stop the ship right before it hit the other ship. So the ship would appear in two places at once. Because light, I don't know.
Down. It made no sense because light travels at the same speed in a vacuum, no matter what you do. And as soon as it moved, it would have disappeared from view, just like any other ship that moves at any speed.
And they made it seem like it was so super fast, but then when Picard recreates it to try to attack the Enterprise, it is so slow. It's just like
in storytelling, it made more sense, and it didn't fall apart. But where it fell apart was when they showed it on screen. So the visualization of it didn't work. But I don't know how they could have visualized it to work.
Well, I mean, they tried. I think the mistake was they tried to visualize it using an effect, some kind of like stretchy effect or warp effect.
Rainbow
you were
effect,
going to try to do it like actually like what someone would see, the ship would just suddenly blink in front of you while the other one was still sitting there, right? Mm-hmm. Because it would be moving quicker than you could perceive. So it would all of a sudden be right there in front of you and right there. And so the maneuver was what? You didn't know which ship to shoot at? And I think you would shoot at the one that's right in front of you.
Yeah, exactly. While I was watching it, I was like, why would you shoot at the one far away? Shoot at the one that's right in front of you.
So it's a dumb maneuver anyway.
In writing, it worked. In visualizing, it did not work at all. It fell totally apart.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because that reminded me of the finale of Disco when we discussed inside the portal, inside the progenitor tech, how they wanted to make this nth dimensional space that was beyond sort of the 3 dimensions we know, and it probably sounded a lot better on paper than they were able to realize it on screen. So this is just maybe another example of Trek overreaching. Maybe it's the first example of Trek overreaching with an effect, because I can't remember a lot of stuff in TOS that wasn't practical that kind of fell apart on camera. I mean, a lot of bad props and a lot of cheap stuff, but in universe, it all seemed to make sense. This is where computers can get you in trouble, I guess.
I have to give this the writers of this episode credit, Herbert Wright and Larry Foster, story by Larry Foster. It wasn't a dumbed down, simple story. They were really trying to do something, I feel. It was more involved than just like Planet of the Week and Monster of the Week. It had a bunch of story parts that added up to a good arc for me, at least. And we're looking at it now after so many good episodes of Star Trek and their movies, but at the time, this is what, the 6th episode, 9th episode?
9th, yeah.
Yeah. So
does that give it a pass? Does that means it was better in the context of when it first aired? Like I don't know where you're going with that.
Well, I think with this script, maybe, I'm not sure of the timing, but I'm thinking this is one of the first batch of scripts that they were putting out even before production started. They were thinking about developing, and it was really involved. It wasn't very simple. It wasn't everybody gets drunk. What I found interesting was they weren't familiar with AI voice technology in the future.
Okay. Well, I mean, maybe it was outlawed at some point, and then it was lost during the Third World War.
One of my thoughts.
Yeah. But Data seems to have it down.
You were talking about the Picard mover. Another thing, I'm scatterbrained on this episode. Don't mind me.
It's fine. It's okay. Like it's kind of tough to discuss this in any kind of linear fashion. So I think we're just going to be Picard maneuvering all over the place.
Fashion. That's what I want to talk about. Good. Bringing that up. The Picard maneuver. It's the first time in universe the Picard maneuver exists, but I think it's the first time on the show Picard maneuver might exist, because if you noticed, they have new uniforms. They look exactly the same as the uniforms up until now, but they're baggier. They're less tight. They're less skin tight. I had read or heard somewhere that the main cast was complaining because the jumpsuits were just so tight on them that they were having trouble breathing, but also, 9, 10, 12 hours a day, the spandex wasn't only compressing them inwards, it was compressing them downwards. So it would really be painful on their spine. But in this episode, everybody switched to like a couple sizes bigger. So everybody had more of a baggy spacesuit on. So maybe that's why the Picard maneuver was developed and coined during this era from the Picard maneuver, because everybody was wrinkly now. I most noticed it with Tasha Yar in the conference room. If you ever watch the episode again, very baggy, where her uniform was always form fitting to like accentuate her assets, but she pretty much hidden now in a blousey thing.
I'm sorry. Will you be okay?
and like Picard's legs, where they used to be almost like tights or leggings, now they're almost like 90s pants, like bulky.
Right. I hadn't noticed. I mean, to me, they're always going to be the first 2 season onesies. And I feel like the Picard maneuver comes in when they reinvent the uniforms to make them 2-piece.
Yeah, so, definitely when they're 2-piece.
Yeah. I mean, that's the unofficial Picard maneuver.
I think there's a YouTube super edit of the Picard maneuver.
There is, and there's one where he does it and his combat badge pops off. So
cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So this episode was like maybe just about gaslighting, right? Because while this was happening to Picard, he was confused. Like he had his own memories, but he stopped believing them and started believing the new narrative. And he was very confused.
I see now. Let's dive into that a little bit, because one part of this episode that simultaneously annoyed me and relieved me was this whole thing with the manipulated log. to make it seem like it was Jean-Luc's fault. And I was thinking, oh my God, are we going to go into a whole thing where they have to debate whether or not, oh no, they're not going to do that at all. Like they investigate it, they already know that it's a forgery, and then they prove that it's a forgery. And I was thinking, then why is this here except as filler? This is just something to give, pad out one of the acts or whatever, because it made, to me, in story, no real difference, and it had no real purpose. But I feel like you found a purpose for it.
Well, it was also to drive Picard mad, but also to get Picard in trouble if the plan didn't work out to where he would be killed, maybe. So he had multiple plans, multiple revenge plans against Picard.
I guess, I don't know. It's like, what's his face? It's a fake.
Yeah, the Romulan.
Yeah. So it just struck me as clunky and needless. And I was just like, okay, we're going to spin our wheels on this for a little while. And it was mercifully short, and Picard didn't buy it. But so again, maybe it was just to plant some seeds as he was getting more and more unhinged.
Yeah, just to help with driving him mad, maybe questioning his own memories, and the headaches provided by the beach ball would make it more him more confused, so he would really start to believe it. So maybe that was really the true revenge, trying to make him go mad. In universe, I think Data would have heard the captain's voice and recognized the AI or the clippy nature or the difference in tones, where how he can analyze 9 pieces of music at once in 1 second. So I think he could have just known it was a fake just instantly, but he's got to slow it down for everyone else.
Yeah, it could be. Maybe he's charged with proving that it's a fake. So instead of going on his word saying, look, I can tell you right now it's a fake, but let me go and do the work so that I can prove it and I can find all the stuff. And maybe I think I finished the thought. So, yeah.
What did you think about the Picard reenacting the Stargazer happenings with the Ghost crew? How do you feel about that?
I thought that was neat because I thought it was going to be like Airplane after a while, where all you heard was like when they have on Stryker, the close up about Macho Grande, and just like pull up. I thought it was going to be like that the whole time. But then when the Ghost crew started to appear, I said, "I'll say that's pretty neat. It's putting you in his headspace." And then we were able to get full on recreation. So I like the way they phased that in as the plot thickened, so to speak, as the trauma and the manipulation became stronger and stronger. It really put you in his headspace. And it's nice to see it rather than just hear Troy talk about it. What did you think about it?
I enjoyed it. I watched this one on Paramount Plus. I didn't watch the Blu-ray or the Laserdisc or VHS on this one. Just timing. And I don't remember the effects being that good, but I remember them being similar. Like the ghosting effect on everybody, like see-through and stuff like that. I thought it was done really well. One shot that I really liked while he was starting to go mad, after his nap, I think, after Beverly put him to bed. There was like this overhead push in on his eyes, and I liked that. That was atypical for Star Trek, and I really thought it was a good shot. So that was Rob Bowman, I guess.
Yeah, Rob Bowman. Good on you, Rob Bowman.
Yeah. What do you think about Beverly in this episode? There was a few things, because when they went over to the Stargazer, Picard wasn't doing so hot. So I like the fact that the crew went over first. The rest of the landing party went over first to make sure it was okay for Picard. That should happen more often, I think, in Star Trek. But the Dr. Beverly went over with Picard specifically to take care of him while he was there. But then he just goes, okay, I'm out. I'm going to go check out my old quarters. And she kind of stays on the bridge. What is she doing on the bridge and not with Captain Picard?
Yeah, I don't know. I think she was just there to be there. Quite frankly, I didn't really follow that line. I was still trying to get over the fact that she didn't know what a headache was. You're a doctor. So
she knew what it was. She had just never heard of it.
She was like Apu's wife on The Simpsons weekend. Like, I don't understand how a doctor wouldn't recognize something like a headache. And she's saying, what was it? Well, now that brains are mapped and pain is decoded and we've cured the common cold. It's just like, okay, we get it. Humans are super advanced now. Like a headache is just like anachronism from the distant past. It's like,
Mhm.
was it? I think Kirk had a headache. Kirk had a headache a few times on the original series. I think
Yeah.
he had one of the movies for sure. So I mean,
It's something she had never encountered before. So maybe like now where we have headaches and we take whatever Tylenol, ibuprofen, aspirin, acetaminophen,
she's
naproxen
never seen
sodium.
somebody with a hangover in her academy days. I know they got
Guess
sent the
not.
hall and all that, but
No, but does everyone have a blue wavy light for headaches?
I wish I had a blue wavy light for headaches. I mean, so yeah, I mean that again. Sometimes the medical stuff takes me out of it. It was like the episode where she had on the weird med helmet with the eye patch, and
Yeah.
it was just that ridiculous contraption that she had on her head.
The remind me the med equipment to just mask his pain. It looked like a shampoo bottle lid with a big marble stuck on it. I was like, really?
Yeah. Was that the medical tricorder, or was that something specifically for headaches?
It was something specific to remap the pain or something.
Yeah, I just I honestly don't know why Beverly was this, because she didn't stop him from going mad. She didn't cure him from going mad. She could maybe mask the headaches just a little bit, and she never followed through on her threat to ground him if he acted weird or if she had more medical concerns. The whole episode is her having medical concerns and not doing anything about it.
Yeah, she was a little surprised that he was up and about.
Yeah. So
why was he up and about? Was he still in a lot of pain and confusion? He was just like on a mission and ignoring it all?
Yeah, no, I think he was being driven to recreate and relive the whole,
by the ball.
That was the manipulation of the beach ball manipulation.
Okay. So he was already being influenced by that to somehow take over the Stargazer again.
Yeah, and and that's another weird turning point. Is this mind control now? Because he gets on Riker's case about turning off the tractor beam. Oh, lo and behold, so that he can go and take the Stargazer and do whatever he's going to do with it. So, is it? I understand that the first officer, Ferengi Kazago, explained to Riker that this was banned technology and it was used to implant thoughts, but does it also spur you into action? Does it implant impulses as well as false memories? Apparently it must, right?
That is a good question. What I was wondering about was how did it target Picard specifically? Because it was on the Stargazer, and as it came closer to the Enterprise, his headache got worse. But how did they tune it to him? Did they find his DNA in his quarters, and maybe that's how they did it?
Yeah,
is there a way
too,
that they targeted him specifically?
Could it be that the beginning of those headaches were a way of them doing surreptitious scans to calibrate it to his brain? And latch on, kind of lock on to me, buddy, lock on. It's like Al locking onto Sam's neurons and mesons in the imaging chamber, right? So that's how I'm going to interpret that.
Okay. Deanna, she felt the pain too when it increased, almost a mechanical pain. So how is she like having empathic waves of technology affect her?
You tell me, because the question I had for Deanna this episode, aside from Beverly's WTF with the medical thing, Deanna's just like, he's in excruciating pain. He's being bombarded with whatever, and she even says something to the effect that she could feel like it was something from Picard's past. Like, how could she feel like the temporal placements of an emotion? It made no sense to me. It was just there again for narrative filler, just to say it's his past coming to get him. Do you get it? Do you get it?
Feeling of nostalgia.
Even Troy gets it. I was just like, I don't understand.
I don't think they ever really truly landed on Troy's powers.
Yeah, they seem to be a little bit mutable in season 1, and she sometimes is a little bit more Vulcan-like. She's sometimes a little bit more playful with them, and I feel like Deanna is still being molded here. So It's just though when you think about it, though, if their whole thing, if Beverly and Deanna are as like the duo responsible for keeping the ship healthy primarily,
Right.
one mentally healthy, one physically healthy, you have Beverly knowing that he's in agony physically. You have Deanna saying he's being overwhelmed by memory and senses. Yet they don't do anything to restrain him or ground him, or they just put the little patches on his head and say, "Get some sleep, you poor dear, and we'll leave you unsupervised." And Riker will have, a bromance with Kazago, and yeah, they failed spectacularly at the jobs that they had.
Well, that's normal, I think. I mean, if everyone was good at their job, there'd be no episode, right?
I guess that's
it'd
only
all be
security.
taken care of in the teaser, right? If Beverly was good at her job, it'd be taken care of in the teaser.
All right. I mean, you're the one that liked this episode. You tell me.
I did. I just that's true. Burnt toast. What did you think of the B story?
Was there a B story?
Aha! Is this the only episode of Star Trek without a B story? I'm trying to think.
No, you know what? Wesley had a little bit of a B story, although it played into the A story.
Yeah, everything was connected to the A story. Nothing really separate.
No B story.
There was a few beats between the Ferengi first officer and Riker.
But that all played in. I thought that again, when I saw that first one, I thought, okay, here we go, some more filler. Because you're not going to be able to reason with a Ferengi, but then it comes back around in the end. So he did establish some kind of rapport with Kazago, which again was a better way to go with a Ferengi as opposed to the cartoons that we saw in the last Outpost.
Yeah, and it also gave...
Yeah, they could be reasoned with to some degree.
And it also gave the example that they weren't a monoculture. They weren't all villainous and evil trying to get him. They weren't all on board with this, like we see in other villains, maybe. So I think that was good to add more complexity to the Ferengi. Saying they're not all the same people. They're separate people. And
now,
like
I have a question about Wesley in this, because once again, Wesley sort of saves the day. But Wesley just has carte blanche to go down and screw with systems and engineering. Like, he's like, I was tweaking the sensor array, and it's like, what?
I think after the whole Traveler thing, he does.
I don't know. I don't think that you should be able to go down to engineering and just start fucking with the sensors because you have an idea and you're the wunderkind, and you should just be able to have free reign to do experiments. Isn't that how we get xenomorphs? Or exocomps.
Yeah.
Exocomps,
and
xenomorphs.
Nanites too. Oh my goodness.
I mean,
did Wesley invent the Borg? We don't know.
Yeah, exactly. He's nothing but trouble on that damn ship. And then there's no problem that he creates that he can't solve, though, because he comes in and does what his mom should have been doing all along. And,
it's the whole boss's wife thing. Like, the boss's wife doesn't work there, but when she comes in and tells you to do something, you do it. So Wesley is Picard's like pet project, his stepson-ish. And so it's like, well, he's really close to Picard, so if he comes down, you let him do stuff.
I don't know, because Picard upbraids him in front of everybody on the bridge, saying,
"The boy,
why didn't you just, hit a comm panel and say, this is what I've found? Oh, because you wanted to be up here to see the Ferengi beam on board. Well, that's bullshit, kid. You put us all in danger by waiting that extra 20 seconds because you don't know what's going on." So I liked that, but then they have that little redemption because of the way he's able to manipulate the sensors. He gets the transmission from Beach Ball Prime, right? And it's the same exact brain pattern, memory pattern that has flummoxed Beverly and Deanna throughout this entire thing. So, and that little moment, right, when he solves the problem and they walk away, and he's like, "Oh, you're welcome."
Well, Wesley's definitely on another level than the rest of them, because even if you remember when Beverly and Deanna were telling, I think Riker what's going on, was it that like Deanna couldn't quite remember it correctly and had to ask Beverly. I found that as an interesting beat, a human beat.
I don't recall that scene. I was
She was
just
like,
too.
what was it? High frequency, low frequency, something like that. Yeah, and I took note of that. It seemed like
Hmm.
something that they wouldn't have in there in a Star Trek episode, but it made the characters more human, I think.
All
But
right.
also dumber than Wesley.
Yeah, well, we all are dumber than Wesley. This is
Yeah.
Wesley's universe, and we're just living in it. So.
Yeah, well, he knows that time, space, and thought aren't the separate things that we believe them to be.
Yeah, usually I don't mind, but in this one, it's just like, all right, Wesley's. We know when Wesley comes in Act 3 that the day is going to be saved at this point.
Yeah, so many other ships were destroyed because they didn't have their own Wesley.
I guess those ships had more ice cream, though. So there's a trade-off there, you know?
There is a trade-off.
Yeah. No
You
double
got to take the
portions
good
of
with
ice
the
cream.
bad.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Speaking of ice cream, I got
Yes.
nothing. I got nothing.
Oh, okay. And well, Card had sort of a brain freeze with his headaches.
Yeah. What was your overall feeling of the episode? Like, did you feel that creepiness? I felt that creepiness, like during.
No, again, because I could see that there was no mystery behind it. You knew that Bach was manipulating him, so it was just like, how far is it going to go?
Mm-hmm.
And I have some final thoughts on that. I'll save them for the final thoughts, but let's just say, short answer, no. I didn't feel creepiness to it because it was almost laid out from the beginning, right? And there was nothing in it that I found unsettling. And I'm going to stop my comments there.
All right.
Well, yeah.
Did you feel that this episode might someday have a sequel?
I did not. I mean, I would say that like maybe the Stargazer would show up again. I don't know what you're doing over there, man. Oh, you're just saying.
Sorry, I had to remove my uniform. It's hot.
I know.
Down
It's
here.
like, yeah, you're gesticulating like a Ferengi back there. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, no.
It's hot
I
down
mean,
here.
I would guess that the Stargazer is going to come up again in some fashion. So I don't know that there's specifically a sequel to this episode, but I feel like we'd connect back to the Stargazer somehow. So maybe a sidequel?
Are you interested in ever reading the Stargazer books?
No. Are those
Nope.
new?
Okay.
Are those new? The Picard universe Stargazer A stuff or whatever it was? Or
They were released back then when the original Star Trek Next Generation ones were, I think, the pocket books.
oh, I see. I see. So would they do like a whole series of young Picard?
A few
on
stories, at least.
Stargazer?
I remember more than one. I could be wrong, but I remember more than one about the Stargazer. It just never interested me having a whole different crew.
Yeah, I mean that can always be the danger when you want to do something like that. You have to create a crew that someone who's reading a book is going to care about. That's a very hard thing to do. Diane Carey did it very well in a couple of her books, but I've other attempts at doing that for me have fallen flat in the expanded universe stuff and in the book series. So I can't imagine liking a Stargazer book because I don't even like the Stargazer. I mean, we have to talk about how freaking ugly that ship is. It looks like a deep tin pot. And is that supposed to be deliberate? Like, do they want to make it look off-putting, or?
I think it has to do with being Picard's his first command, or one of his early commands, at least, if not his first.
I think he said it was his first.
I think so, but it's one of those where you give the new captain a disposable ship, not something Galaxy class like the flagship or something. And it was a while ago before Galaxy class, I think, existed.
Well, and here was the other thing that kind of took me out of it, because the model of the Stargazer was so tin-plated and big and bulky, and then it had those teeny nacelles on the back. So you just had this ugly saucer section and then these weird-looking nacelles. But when they were towing it, so it had the Ferengi ship they had like a trio hero shot of the Ferengi ship, the D, and then the D towing the Stargazer. The Stargazer is almost as big as the Enterprise D. Like, you would think the Stargazer would be a smaller craft for a first-time captain, a different class of ship. I mean, the D is now like the premier achievement, and I've seen videos where they say just how freaking tremendous the D is. Even with 1,000 people on it, you could walk, for a mile and not bump into anybody because there's just so much space on that ship. The Stargazer looked just about as big. So that took me. I thought it was going to be kind of a rinky-dink ship, and it's next to the D, and it looks bigger sometimes.
It might be perspective, like the camera's supposed to be close to the Stargazer and the Enterprise further away. I don't know.
No, I think it was.
It didn't match up the way it should have. Like it should have been this tiny compared to the Galaxy class starship.
I wonder if there is a comparison chart, like of what the Stargazer. If there's like an official designation of what they're supposed to be.
Us nerds are going to nerd, so I think you'd probably Google that in 2 seconds and you would find out.
Just for the D. I mean, I've seen that. Have you ever seen the YouTube video that shows all of the different types of alien craft and the size compared to them? And it comes from everything, like from science fiction books, from TV shows, from video games. And it starts out with like something teeny, like a Battlestar Galactica fighter or something, or the TARDIS. And then it just keeps moving down, bigger and bigger ships. So, the Enterprises are in there, and then like the Millennium Falcon's in there, and then like a Star Destroyer's in there, and just to show you like the scale of how huge.
Yeah, and it's comparing it to like the Empire State Building or Statue of Liberty and different things. I've seen
as they're earthbound, and then it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So
I think the biggest ship I know of is the Red Dwarf. That's like 6 miles, 7 miles long, something like that.
Oh, but they even go into like Ring World in this, which is
wow.
basically almost like a Dyson sphere kind of deal. So
Dyson sphere, which apparently they found now. Interesting.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, if you go for every clickbait article, sure.
Clickbait. But I like when they actually talk to the scientists and they're like, it's probably something else, but we just don't know what it is yet. We'll get back to you.
Yeah.
But all the clickbaits are like Dyson spheres.
That's right. It's funny. I was talking to my friend Dominic at work about that. He's like, what's a Dyson sphere? And I said, well, and I started to explain relics to him. And he was like, it says that right here when Lieutenant Commander Montgomery Scott. And I was just like, ha ha ha. But one thing, I mean, if you want to talk about relics, I guess I made my own segue there.
I always do.
The Stargazer was clearly a redress or a hack job of the Enterprise A from Star Trek V. Correct me
Which
if
was
I'm
a
wrong.
redress, which was redressed to be the battle bridge in an encounter at Farpoint.
Okay, well, you know what cued me off was those ugly displays that are just primarily like green and aqua, which I always hated in Star Trek V. I just could not stand the look of that stark white with those ugly colors, and they just stood out like crazy because they lit this a lot more cinematically. It was a lot darker, a lot smokier. It had the requisite Starfleet gravel and dirt all over the consoles. And another thing that took me out of it was that like all the stations were labeled helm, nav, in big like NASA letters. It was just
in case you got lost on the way to the bridge on your station.
Exactly. It's just like, well, that seems a little much. Did they put captain on the back of the chair? Or?
Captain. It seemed to fit with me. Like I for a while I wondered why they didn't update the graphics, but then but the LCARS was new with the Galaxy class, at least this version of LCARS, and the Akutograms. So having it look like more like Star Trek V kind of makes sense because it's such an older ship.
Yeah.
Probably refit before it was given to Picard. So who knows? Maybe 80 years old at the time, 100. I mean, I'm sure it's in a book somewhere.
I mean, it's big as hell.
So it didn't jump out at me as much because it was supposed to look old, and it did look older with the older graphics. So, but yeah, definitely didn't. It wasn't in the TNG style.
And I didn't mind that. I usually don't mind that when they do the redresses. It just makes sense in universe to have like a technological through line. So I kind of like that because it gives you some cohesion to the universe. Just like I like when Picard's in his Academy days, they're wearing the Monster Maroons, or when we see Jack Crusher, Ghost Dad, giving his speech to Wes. He's also on the Monster Maroons. They've lost turtlenecks at that point because they couldn't find them, I guess. But again, it gives you a sense that we're in this contiguous universe. I guess it's just that I just found the A in Star Trek V so ugly. I didn't like anything about the production design of the movie. The costumes were awful. The ship was awful. And
I miss Kirk's old chair too.
So does Kirk.
Yeah, it's that whole lost error thing. aren't we supposed to get new something?
No,
during
Lost Era. Well, Lost
between
Era
the
is
end
a
of
different
original and the beginning of, or the end of the movies and the beginning of the next gen.
See, you're getting into book lore with me.
Probably
there was a pocket book series. Maybe I'll do it as a Trek and Tell one day. I don't think I have them out here. Let me take a look.
Yay! I love learning about new books.
Yeah, I don't have them out. They're in a box somewhere. See, this is why I need to fix my freaking library.
You're in a box somewhere.
There was a trio of novels that came out called The Lost Era that were supposed to bridge the time between the original series and the motion picture. So whenever you say The Lost Era, I think of those three books. I don't. So now you're talking about some books that bridge Star Trek VI with Encounter at Farpoint, basically. That's like 80 years of history, though.
It is. I think something new is supposed to take place during that, but it's not Academy. It's not Section 31. What else?
No, are you talking about like the new feature film was supposed to be like a prequel series or like an origin story?
Maybe.
But to me, that's going back to Enterprise times.
Yeah.
Which they already did in the Kelvin verse, kind of, with the third movie. With Star Trek Beyond kind of bridges that gap with Idris Elba's character. So...
Yeah. Well, what do we know about that? We know about the Enterprise C from yesterday's Enterprise, right? And Jack Crusher.
I guess we know about the B, I guess, and the Excelsior class hangs out for a long time because it seems to be the workhorse of the prop department in the first season of Next Gen.
Oh, wait.
So those Excelsior class ships are really, really durable.
Is it the Section 31 movie that takes place earlier because it's got the captain of the Enterprise C in it?
Rachel Garrett is in it somehow.
Yeah, Rachel Garrett recast. So it must be something before Next Gen.
I would. Yeah, well, if you're going to go back, I mean, because they needed to send Georgiou back because the universes were expanding or some bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
So she had to get closer to the focal point between the mirror universe and the prime universe. So I guess she would be going back to a time when the mirror universe and the prime universe, but that can go anywhere from the original series to TS9. And I guess that could go anywhere from before the original series. That can go anywhere from Cage era and Discovery, because Disco, the whole first season's in the mirror universe, to DS9 with Smiley and all that nonsense.
Speaking of the Cage, the original series, Deep Space Nine, tell everybody what we're doing next in our immediate future.
In our immediate future, we are going to be doing our rewatch and review of The Cage, which was the original pilot of Star Trek. And we're trying to decide if we're going to watch the black and white version or the Technicolor version. I'm not sure. I'm only teasing about that. But
did you ever watch the black and white version?
I've seen a version where the black and white footage is interspersed with the color footage because that was the way the footage. I don't know that's how they found it, or they found extra footage and they just incorporated it into a final cut or a director's cut. How did that work?
So the story goes, as I understand it, The Cage was never released on television, and there was a black and white duplicate of it made that Gene Roddenberry would take around to conventions to play.
Right, on the convention tour.
But they intercut the color footage that actually was from the Menagerie. So anything that was in the Menagerie that they used from The Cage was in color because the Menagerie was in color. So they had the black and white, I think it was 8mm source back then, black and white 8mm, and intercut the color footage from The Cage, from the Menagerie that was from The Cage. And that's why you got the color black and white. And I remember watching that a few times, but I don't remember if I had the VHS because that doesn't seem familiar, or if they aired it on television, maybe during the 25th anniversary. Do you know anything more about that history?
No, and I think we should probably save this discussion anyway for the Cage episode.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah,
but
so
the Cage, the color footage was actually found in a vault from a private collector. And once they found that, they restored it and put it out. They could,
restore, make the entire thing.
So it's important that you hold on to your physical media, folks. I'm just saying.
I guess. What would you say so?
Okay, what's next? Do we ask questions or something, or do we?
Yeah, I guess you're done with the main discussion, huh? You're done?
Kinda, yeah. That's
Yeah.
my thoughts on the battle for the most part. I'll have a
Okay.
little
Yeah.
bit of a wrap up and final thoughts, but other than that,
Gotcha. Yeah, no, what's your episode crush then?
ooh, that redhead is back. That background actor.
We're going to call him Buster Brown.
Yeah, she's a redhead. She was on the bridge this
Oh,
time.
I thought you were talking about the dude behind the horseshoe crab.
No, not that guy.
Who got mouthy in Jogging Boner Planet.
Yep, and got punched by B'Elanna on Voyager. Turns out it was the same person. So
it really was.
One episode of Next Gen and like 7 episodes of Voyager. So I was right. Yay! Look for the annotated version of the video on YouTube. I usually make notations on things. I usually annotate things on the video. So whatever we're curious about, I look up while I'm editing. So yes, it was the same guy. Pretty cool.
Okay. So, but there's a redhead that was your episode crush.
Yeah, like I wasn't really crushing on anybody. I was more like feeling ill and like I needed to get out. I was definitely there with Picard.
Okay. All right.
So, what was your who was your crush for this episode?
I'm gonna, if I had to give one, it was Frank Corsentino and his somewhat nuanced portrayal of Damon Bach. Gave the Ferengi a second chance. My God, Bones, what have I done? What you always do. Turn death into a fighting chance to live. I feel like Frank Corsentino turned the Ferengi into a fighting chance to at least be some kind of credible recurring race, even if they can't be credible villains. So
I have to applaud his acting. He was believable. Even, you got big rubber ears on your head.
Yep.
I saw past that and I saw the actual character. So I would agree with you on that. What was your favorite part of the episode?
My favorite part of the episode was... I gotta think about that. It's tough. It's tough because there was I guess my favorite part of the episode was when Wesley just snorks adults. That's just long. It's just what's coming to mind right now.
My favorite part probably has to be the whole Picard Night Sweat's dream, acting out the what happened on the Stargazer with the ghosts. I thought that was interesting. At the time, I remember being really creeped out about it as a kid. Like it really creeped me out for some reason. But I always enjoy that part. And then Picard's acting, or Patrick Stewart's acting during that part. It was very, very multi-leveled, and I saw it and appreciated it. But more than that, I believed it. So,
gotcha.
But of course, it's Patrick Stewart. So yeah, I really enjoyed that part.
Yeah, he always does great with what they give him. So, is there 47?
I did not see one. There might have been one, but I didn't pick up on it because I had a headache because of the lion's mane. Gotcha.
I think it's time for me to ask you some questions.
Woo! Yay! I'm so super excited.
All right, so let's see.
You got me for 3 questions.
I got you for 3 questions. All right, you're never going to get this one ever.
Nope, ever.
Which crew person is with LaForge when both are believed dead following a transporter accident in the Next Generation episode, The Next Phase?
That would be Ensign Ro Laren.
Yes, I would. I don't even turn the card over. You're right about that. Ooh, why does the Enterprise enter uncharted space in the original series episode, The Tholian Web?
I've seen that like 19 times at least.
I didn't know the answer.
Is it in pursuit of something? I don't know. I don't remember.
In a way, after a fashion, it's the most obvious answer of all. To answer a distress call.
That was
Kobayashi Amaru.
I don't remember that one. I have to watch it again. I get to watch it again.
Here we go. Speaking of Star Trek V, where did the Star Trek The Final Frontier writers devise the name Shakari?
That was because originally to play God was Sean Connery. So that was just a shortening and changing of his name. Even though
you have that half right. I mean, on the main you have it right, but the actor they initially pursued for the role of not God but Sybok was Sean Connery.
Oh.
So they wanted Sean Connery to be Spock's brother.
Oh. Oh, I always had that wrong in my head. So thank you for correcting me. So I got 1.5 right, kind of.
1.5.
Or I should have just answered Sean Connery. What is Sean Connery? Be vague when I can be, right?
It's actually nice when we don't get them all right away.
Yeah, I don't want to be a know-it-all.
So, okay, it's time for Trek and Tell.
Trek and Tell. You said you might have a book?
I always have a book. Let's see.
Oh, I know you're going to unwrap Imzadi, too, so I could get you to read it.
At some point, I'll unwrap it when I read it.
I should have got you the paperback. I'm sorry. I was looking at chairs.
It's okay. Don't worry about it.
I'm not going to buy any more furniture. Don't worry.
I'm in the middle
of the wife. Tell Laura, no more furniture.
I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle of like a 2,000-page book, so it's going to be a little while before I read anything else besides the Power Broker.
Power Broker. That's what you're reading?
That's what I'm reading. Yeah.
Never heard of it. Is it sci-fi?
No, it's a autobiography. It's not. It's a biography of Robert Moses. Listen to one of the recent episodes of Drunkard's Walk. I was on there doing a whole thing about it.
Robert Moses. Oh, is that the guy in Long Island that did the thing?
Yeah, the one I tried. Yeah, I tried to tell you about him, and then you and Randy just would like listen for about a half a second, then tune me out.
No, I listened. I was still trying to remember what the statue was. Yeah, I listened to you on that Drunkard's Walk. How do you pronounce it?
Drunkard's Walk.
Drunkard's Walk. I listened to that episode because the episode before it was about what? My Little Pony or something I was really interested in.
No, Around the Bend, I think it was. It was like an Australian kiddie show. That was really
something.
weird.
But I was interested, and I thought I was like baited and switched it because I didn't understand the premise of the show. But I found it interesting, all your history on the guy.
So that's yeah. So let's see what I'm pulling down here. You do you do yours.
Okay. What do I have? Oh, so Serenity and I go to different thrift stores looking for stuff, and I think I was looking at the DVDs, and she was looking for laser discs in the records, and because that's what my daughter does because she's awesome. And she was looking through magazines. She was like, "Should I look through these old magazines?" I was like, "If you want." I never do, right? So look what she finds in the old magazine section.
That looks like
it's a TV guide
Kirk
from
Picard.
I think the 35th anniversary. It's when it's July 22nd, 2002. It was like when Enterprise was just premiering, and TV Guide put out a special Star Trek holographic thing all about Star Trek, and it's got a lot of the same stuff, but it was very interesting.
Let me see. Let's get a close-up of Scott on that cover. He looks pretty badass.
Doesn't
I like
always?
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Look at that. So she found that, and I'm like, that's weird. This is like a perfect copy of TV Guide from 2002. And Rennie, on the way home from the thrift store, she was reading different facts about Jolene Blaylock and T'Pol, and I love my daughter. She's pretty awesome. In that same section, found in a Ziploc bag, the Entertainment Weekly from the premiere week of Star Trek Voyager.
Wow. What's that worth?
I don't know, but she was like, "Look, it's Janeway." I was like, "Oh my God." So it was in a plastic bag. So I'm thinking someone saved these and then died, because that's what happens.
Gotcha.
So I'm going to read those articles. I know my Trek and Tells have been magazine centric lately, but we just happen to stumble upon those while looking for different things.
Well, I mean, and like when you say that's how I got the majority of those Alfs that I found you, I'm sure.
Yes.
Somebody died and they gave their comic book collection to Savers. So
I feel bad for the tow trucks and tractor trailers and bulldozers that are going to have to get rid of this Star Trek stuff when I go. I don't know. Luckily, Rennie likes a little bit of it, so hopefully she'll save some of it.
Well, that's cool, man. I'm glad you found it.
And the DVD I ended up getting was The Three Amigos. I didn't have it, so we picked that up and we watched The Three Amigos.
I'm sorry.
It's a good movie.
Okay. It was dumb.
El Guapo.
But it's okay. Robert Picardo's in it, right? So, or am
Is
I
he?
thinking Inner Space? No, he's in Inner Space.
You're thinking Inner Space. He's definitely in Inner Space.
That's another
that
more
werewolf
short movie. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
what is your Trek and Tell?
My Trek and Tell, since you went all physical media last time with your 4K collection of all the original series movies, I reached back behind and I just happened to have them. I have all of the original series movie novelizations. And what makes them
Wow.
interesting is you can see the evolution. Now, people that are listening on the podcast feed, you can't see it, but they go from these basic sort of white spine things, like with just the names of the movies on them, but with a big Star Trek logo, to very basic, colorful, but not as striking, I think, as the white spines. What I find amazing with these, what I love is you can see with your with TMP, they kind of did a takeoff of the movie poster.
Yeah, the rainbow.
And the rainbow with Leah and Spock and Kirk and the Enterprise is there, the refit Enterprise, front and center. But
TMP was celebrating Pride Month way before the rest of us.
Yeah, yeah. And then you go to the Wrath of Khan cover, and it gets a little bit freaky. It gets like almost like Doctor Who. It looks like again, it's got like the big banner Wrath of Khan, but they have this original art, and they have Spock and Kirk and the Monster Maroons, and then they have like this head of Khan floating in the background with like it's flying through warp space because it's got these rainbows shooting at it.
Floating heads, yeah.
Yeah, it's really neat. I think the nicest cover though is for one of my favorite Star Trek movies. It's The Search for Spock. This was
which they just released the magazine for.
Right. But if you look at the cover of this one, what they did was they took a scene from the film.
Yeah.
But it kind of looks almost like a scene from Wrath of Khan, doesn't it? But they're all on their civvies, and they have Spock's head in the background, but it's like this 3-shot of Sulu, McCoy, and Kirk has got a phaser out. And it's
I remember that picture in my head.
Yeah, and I'm trying.
Is that when they're trying to steal the Enterprise?
No, I think it's when they're trying to bust Spock out of the loony bin. I don't know.
Oh, going
out of the loony bin. Yeah.
That whole heist part of it.
Don't call me tiny. It's kind of like that, but the Kirk's pose is reminiscent of after he shoots the city eel in Star Trek 2. He's just, it's almost like they took that pose and put him in civilian clothes instead of the Monster Maroon. But I just find this a very evocative, interesting cover. And then after that, they just went basic, like almost movie poster. Voyage Home has almost no artwork. It's just got some title work. And five is essentially the movie poster. And 6. And 6 and 5. I'm sorry, I have them reversed here. Yeah, there's 6. That's definitely the movie poster for 6.
Yeah, 100% VHS tape looking.
Yeah, and I think it also looks like those prints that I gave you that had some of the Star Trek stuff in them as well. Right?
That'll be a Trek and Tell coming up soon.
Yeah, and the Undiscovered Country, of course, is
Star Trek 6, the Undiscovered Country.
Yeah, one thing I never noticed on the movie poster that I'm noticing just now, though, is if you look in the top corner, they have that picture of who was the main Shakespeare quoting baddie in
Chang.
Chang, yes, it's like Chang with his eye patch. I'm just now for the first time ever noticing that detail of this cover.
Oh wow, yeah, I never did notice that.
And I think it's because while I bought these books, these are some of the few Star Trek books that I bought and never read because I'd seen the movies.
Yeah.
So I never read the novelizations. From what I understand, the first edition of the novelization for the motion picture has some just a passage, an errant passage where Kirk considers whether or not Spock is gay. Like he just contemplates that as a possibility. I wonder if it's in this. I'd probably have to read this and see. But let me see if I got a first edition here.
I was going to ask you what's different about the books and the movies, but you haven't read them. What about while we're covering the movies after the original series, reading the books and letting us know as we go?
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, this is an eighth printing of the original TMP. So anyway, that's my Trek and Tell. It's always going to be book centric because it's the only thing I have to hand. So
I like it. Those are very good. I remember. I think Star Trek 6. I had the comic book. That was my first comic book I ever bought. Was Star Trek 6, the graphic novel. So
I remember getting some. I don't know how I got them. Copies of the comic version of Star Trek 4.
Oh wow!
The Voyage Home. Yeah, I think I had like 3 or 4 copies of that. I don't know what happened to them. They're probably in a box somewhere in the garage. So,
Very cool.
So yeah.
Do you like that? Do you like the tie-ins? Because I've been doing the audiobooks of the movies now. I just got that lot.
Yeah, I haven't read them, so I don't know if I like them.
But like in general, do you like novelizations of things you've already seen?
No, and I'll tell you why. Because I know how they're going to end. Like I like a book to be its own thing, and I find that if I'm reading, that's why Skip and I had this debate all the time on 11/22/63. I never watch a movie before I read a book. I would much rather read the book and be excited or let down by the book on its own terms than read a book that I know is going to hit certain beats because they were in the movie. Like to me, that ruins a book. And maybe that's why I haven't read any of these novelizations. Like I said, because I'd seen the movie. What's the point? It never occurred to me to see how the writer who was charged with this might have interpreted it. Since I've gotten these, I've learned so much more about the writing business and the tie-in business. Who knows? The writers that were adapting these books might have been adapting them off of a script that had since been changed for the final cut. So it could be a lot of completely different scenes that were originally supposed to be in the movie but never made it. So it'll be very interesting. Maybe I will do that. That's a great idea, Albie. When we watch the movies, I'll read the novelizations.
I think we're going to go original series and then what is it? The phase 2 or what was it rebranded maybe? Or
yeah, it's Star Trek Phase 2 that eventually became I think it was New Voyages. And then they changed it into Phase 2, but that's James Crawley's. Those are James Crawley's. Yeah.
I think we should cover the James Crawley ones because they take place in between the end of the series and the beginning of the motion picture. They really tie in well.
They're varying quality. They can be kind of a slog.
But I mean, they're done on a shoestring.
And they had Vic Mignogna did Star Trek Continues as well.
He was a great Kirk.
Those were
so maybe some bonus episodes.
Yeah, very well.
Maybe
very
we'll
well
pick
produced.
and choose.
Yep.
Yeah, let us know if you want us to cover them when we get there.
Yeah.
And that would be cool. But I really like those. Those are the two. There's been so many fan projects, but those are the two that I really enjoyed because they got the actors and guest stars from different things. I mean, Lou Ferrigno, they got Chiana from Farscape, all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah, they got Takei and they got Koenig too.
Oh, Koenig, that was a great story. So we should at least cover it if it has, Star Trek people in it.
Maybe. All right. Maybe.
Yeah. Takei. Speaking of Takei, when I met George Takei, that weekend, when I met him, I got an autograph because back then they weren't doing photographs with people. And I remember just saying I was a kid and I was like, I love your work. And he was like, why, thank you. So that was my meeting with him. I'm of two minds with the novelizations. Like when I was a kid, I read the Back to the Future novelizations just because like you couldn't bring video along with you wherever you went now, like you can now. And that was my way of while I was stuck somewhere I didn't want to be, like school or something. I would just like read those and I would like remember the movie and it was like enjoying it again. But like I'm reading right now, I'm reading the novelization of the Red Dwarf pilot, The End. And I'm learning so much more about the story, but it was written by the original writer of the episode, or at least one of them, I think. So it goes into so much more detail that I'm actually enjoying it more. But I always enjoy the book more. Like Ready Player One, I enjoyed the book more. The Martian, I enjoyed the book more. And I'm always disappointed by the movie versions of the books. So I don't know which to read first. It's like you got to choose one or the other.
Well, that's one of the few books that I enjoyed less than the film was The Martian. I read the book. I think you sent it to me.
Probably. I sent you all Andy Weir, I think.
Yeah. And so I read it and I thought it was enjoyable, but it's just something about Matt Damon, man. I mean, he was so good in that movie and he carried the entire thing on, it was basically a one-man show.
Matt Damon.
Yeah. So anyway, we digress. We digress. I think it's time for some final thoughts and some readings. So
how about you go first? Final thoughts on the battle.
As I had indicated before, I'll expand on what I was going to say then. Not a lot in this episode surprised me. And I find this episode indicative of Trek episodes that annoy me in general, where we already know what's going on in the first act, sometimes even before the credits. We can already tell how the stories could be mapped out. And they just spend the next several acts playing out what we all know is preordained, and the characters discovering it too slowly when it's so obvious where everything is going. And I feel like this was indicative of episodes like that. And Star Trek is immensely guilty of doing that over and over again in all of the series. There are episodes like that in all of the series, and it's one of my biggest pet peeves with Trek. This kind of falls into that camp for me. So what joy would have been had, or what joy might be mined from this episode, is probably a better way to say it, I think is sapped by the numbers roteness of the story and the predictability of the story. So I think that if I'm going to give it a rating, I'm going to give it 2 way too big stargazers out of 5.
All right.
How about you?
I enjoyed this episode more than I had previously. I think as my understanding of things develop, as I develop, I see more than I did in my previous viewings, of course, because I've been watching this since I was a little kid, and it was just bright colors and boobs. But I really enjoyed it this time, but it's not one of the best episodes, and an episode I look forward to watching. It's more of a, like, it'll be an interesting hour. You know, I'll sit back and enjoy it, kind of like an old movie that you like, but you're not really into, but you'll watch it because it's on. This time I enjoyed that. Again, I'm going to say that to me, it was more complex of a story than they needed to be, than they needed to put out at that time, because everything else up until this point seemed very, not Measure of a Man level, obviously, or something like that. But they were definitely trying to do something, and I applaud that. And I think the execution was done pretty well. Of course, it still has first season, growing pains and hiccups and things that, are glaringly obviously looking back at it. But at the time, I remember being creeped out by it. I remember being like kind of frightened. I don't know if it was the music or just things going on. But I'd say overall, I really enjoyed it as a first season. So like, I'd give it a 3 secondhand merchandise androids for this episode.
Ooh. Good cut. Nice pull. I like it. So 3. But it's still not much higher than mine.
Yeah.
So
I think we agree for the most part. I'm just looking at the good parts and ignoring the bad parts, and you're seeing all of it.
Gotcha. All right. No rose-colored glasses here.
Yeah.
So,
I have many pairs of those.
Yeah. No Ferengi-shaped ears here. I don't know. I'm trying to come up with something. It's an episode, and I'm failing spectacularly.
Rose-colored ears.
No rose-colored beach balls here.
Beach balls. Hey, yeah, there you go.
So we want to hear what everybody else thinks about this episode. Your final thoughts. How many wacky objects out of 5 would you give it? You can let us know on patreon.com/Treksploration. Go there, join our community of intrepid Treksplorers who are giving their opinions on the episodes and watching along with us. Join us over there. You can join for free. You don't have to pay, but if you want to pay, that would be great too. So patreon.com/Treksploration. See what's going on. Follow us on Instagram, Treksploration, @TreksplorationPod. Access at Treksploration. Email us at TreksplorationPod@gmail.com. Call us on the phone at 707-847-6682. And you can always drop us a line at P.O. Box 542, Bayport, New York, 11705. Send me some beach balls.
Somebody's going to send you something like a chair one day, and you'll be like, what the hell is this?
Right. And I'm going to listen back like weeks later and say, oh, yeah, I did say to do that.
I did say send me beach balls. You got to be careful what you say.
I know.
I got an expense account.
Especially with you. You're a lunatic. So this is the part where we usually say what's coming up on the next episode of the TNG recaps, but I forgot to update that part of the rundown. So you're the huge TNG fan. What's next in the order here?
Putting me on the spot. Depends how they go. Justice and Battle. There's a song. Do you know that song?
No.
That sings them in order. It's a really good song. Is it Hiding Q? Let me see.
I'm gonna just TNG S1 Season 1 overview. 7, 8, 9. Hide and Q. You were right.
Yay! The song helped me. You know, like it's the ABC song, but for all the episode names of the Next Generation.
Gotcha. So Hide
You
and
never
Q.
heard that? Click on the link when I send it to you.
No, never going to click on links you send me. Come on, stop it.
Come on.
Wishful
It's such a
thinking,
good
man.
song. It's like every episode of TNG in order. And once I get singing it in my head, I can remember the next one.
I kind of feel like when you say that, we have vastly different ideas of what constitutes a really good song. So
I would say yes. But you're in Mensa. I'm not so much.
Yeah.
And after that, or before that, we were talking about this.
Yeah, we're going to be doing the Cage tomorrow or Saturday. We'll be doing the Cage before we talk about the next gen. So look for that on our Patreon feed. And we'll probably do a preview of it right here on the YouTube channel. So
yes,
green-skinned Susan Oliver. Everybody loves Orion slave cards.
And if anyone has knowledge of that black and white color cut, and if it was ever released and where I can get it, because I've looked for it, that's something Star Trek I don't have.
Yeah. I think I remember watching that when they did it on Channel 11 here.
Was it during the marathon?
It was like a special event. But anyway, we'll save it. We'll save it. What are you doing? He's backing up. He's picking something up. Uh-oh. I don't know what happens here.
Do you remember Star Trek, the 25th anniversary special?
No.
Oh, well, they did that along with like a marathon. I think it was on Sci-Fi of like the top episodes of Star Trek.
Okay.
And that's when Shatner was introducing the episodes or something, or maybe.
Yeah, I remember those. I remember when they premiered Star Trek on Sci-Fi, it was just having Shatner do wraparounds and making every hour-long episode an hour and a half so they could put more commercials and stuff.
More commercials. I might be conflating that with the 25th anniversary marathon. I watched the marathon in this very cargo ship. When I was a young
when you were a wee lad.
Yeah.
Is that an
25th
open
anniversary
VHS
was a big deal for me.
Do you have to unwrap that VHS tape to watch it, or is that one already opened?
This one's open.
Oh, okay.
This one this is from when I used to watch things. I think it might be a replacement after the Great Fire. But
all right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. You got it upside down. But
Mirror Universe.
Oh, we can read it.
Go.
Prove it.
25th anniversary. So that was a big deal. And I think at the time they only had TOS out, right? Was Next Gen almost out? It came out during the 25th anniversary, maybe.
I don't know.
It was a time. All right. So next time we'll be talking about the Cage. And then our next gen will be Hide and Q. Any thoughts on Hide and Q before you watch it again?
None. I want to save all of my thoughts for that episode. It sure has John Delancey in it. I know that.
Say that one more time.
It sure has John Delancey in it. I know that.
It does. And some kind of dog creature.
Oh, okay.
The French Revolution. That's all I remember. Okay.
Oh, animal things. That's right.
Animal things. Why is everything always an animal thing?
What? Well, listen, you animal thing. As always, it's been a pleasure tearing it up with you, talking about Star Trek.
You made my night. So for Treksploration, I'm Albie.
And I'm Chris.
And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Animal things.